Last Sunday, we had the St. David's dinner, the Welsh dinner, and someone said there are two kinds of people in the world: those who are Welsh and those who want to be Welsh. A lot of times we like to divide up the world, right? We divide up, we say, you're either for me or against me, right? We sort of divide up the world. And one of the things which Paul talks about in Corinthians is about division. And when we read last week here, we talked about the beginning of Corinthians, where some of the people said, I'm of Apollos, and some said, I'm of Peter, and some said, I'm of Christ, and some said, I'm of Paul, which showed divisions within the church. And Paul says, no, that's not the right way to divide people. We're not to be divided based upon what particular group of Christians we are. And later in Corinthians, he talks about other various divisions between people. He talks about men and women. He talks about slave and free, Jew and Greek. Those are divisions in society at his time. And he talks about them and says, those are not the real divisions which God is talking about. That's not what divides the world. Now, at the time of Jesus, and among the Jewish people, they looked at a division in the world as being Jews and Gentiles, right? Either you're Jewish or you're not, right? And there was a division between the Jews and the Gentiles. And in here, Paul says that neither the Jews nor the Gentiles really have it right. They haven't understood what the big division is, right? The Jews, it says, are looking for God through miracles and signs. The Jews demand a sign, it says. And in fact, when Jesus is cleansing the temple, the Jews come up to him afterwards and say, what miracle or what sign can you show us to show that you have authority to do this? So he's trying to, that's one thing which the Jews are trying to do. And we say that talk about Jews, but there are people who look for God in signs. They look for God and say, I'm going to find God through signs. And so, if you look outside and say, there's a big storm out there, well, God must have done that because of such and so. Now, God may have done that because of such and so. And God does act in the world, and God is active in the world. But trying to find God by interpreting all of the signs may lead you in wrong directions, right? Right? And that's Jesus says that's not how people are supposed to find God. The second thing he talks about are the Greeks or the Gentiles. He says they use wisdom, they use reasoning and rationale, and they think that they can find God through theological debate, through philosophical exercises, through that kind of wisdom. If only we sit down as people and think about it long enough, we will find God. And again, Jesus says, that's not right. Paul says that's not right. That's not how you come to find Jesus. How do you find him? Well, when Jesus divides the world, he doesn't divide it rich and poor, slave or free, male or female. Jesus divides the world like this. He says that there are some people who are being saved, and there are some people who are perishing. That's the big division. Are you being saved, or are you perishing? And what is it that determines which side you're on? Whether you're someone who's being saved or someone who's perishing. And Paul says, how you determine that is your relationship with the cross of Jesus Christ. The cross. Now we talk about the cross. I have my cross on tonight. We have very stylistic gold cross. But the cross which talks about, which separates the saved from the perishing, and which is the only way to find God, not through miracles and not through wisdom. The cross looks a lot different. Think about what the cross really looks like. It's not that sweet piece of jewelry we wear, right? It's not the sweet thing we put up on a bumper sticker. The cross is two pieces of wood put together, taken out to the side of town, stuck in the ground, and they take someone opposed to the government, someone who's done something wrong, and they take that person and they take nails and they pound the nails through the hands, and they pound the nails through the feet, and they raise them up so they're standing there, so that not only are they going to slowly suffocate and die, but they will be humiliated by the entire community. Okay? That's the cross, right? When we have capital punishment in this country, we have lethal injection, we have everything sterile, we have everything, putting a little, chemicals in the arm. This is brutality, right? This is like 47 people in Syria today taken out into the fields and shot and thrown into a mass grave because they stood up to the government. It is a brutal thing. Now the thing about the cross, okay, we have lots of brutality in this world. We have lots of horrible things, right? Horrible things. But the message of the cross is that horrible brutality. Who is on the cross? It's Jesus, the Son of God, God Himself, on the cross. That Jesus comes and takes that horrible, horrible, horrible punishment, takes that horrible humiliation, when He in fact is God, right? That's horrible. Why does He do that? That's the foolishness of the cross, as Paul says. Anybody who looks at that would say, that's foolish. That's stupid. Why do you have that as your symbol? And it's because on the cross is where God so loved the world that He gave His only Son, that whoever believes in Him would not perish, right? Right? Those who are perishing, but would have what? They would be saved and have everlasting life. Isn't that the contrast? And the contrast of perishing and having everlasting life is found right in the cross. That is not just He suffered, but He came down and did that because He loved us, right? He loved us. That is pure, unbounded love, right? There it is, love. Sometimes we read Corinthians 13, and we read that at weddings, and we talk about human love and how love never fails, and love is never jealous and never boasts, and love keeps no record of wrongs, which is a great thing. But think about, when you use the word love in that passage, put the word Christ in there. Because God is love, right? And Christ is that love that doesn't boast and is never jealous, and the God that keeps no record of wrong, and the one who loves us, right? Loves us. That's the power of the cross. It's love. And to those who are perishing, it's stupid. It's foolishness. It's an instrument of shame and humiliation. And why would anybody ever do that? What's the point? But to those who believe, it is the power of God to have that love and to know that God loves you that much, right? Now, Here's the good and the bad news. The good news, well, I'll start with the bad news. The bad news is that we are all perishing. We start off perishing. That's our starting point in life. All of the world is passing away, right? Everything is passing away. You are dust, and to dust you shall return. Is that not how we began Lent, right? Everything is falling apart. The temple, which it took 46 years to build, is going to crumble in a heartbeat. All of those things which we think are rock solid can be gone like that. We are all perishing. And we are perishing in both a physical way every day, physically, but also in a spiritual way. We are bound for eternal perishment, suffering, hell, separation from God, outer darkness, all those words which we talk about in the New Testament. That's where we start. And the thing is that God does not want anyone to perish, right? You know, he doesn't want to lose anybody. He doesn't want anybody to perish. That's good news. Being saved, offered to everybody, right? It's offered to everybody. There's more good news, right? There is more good news. Everybody has the opportunity to not be perished, but to be saved. The problem is that so many people don't want to accept that, right? They see it as foolishness. They try to come to God through miracles. They try to come to God through their own personal wisdom. They try to come to God through themselves. They try to, how good am I? What have I done? Right? Right? Jesus says, Paul says, those who believe and trust in Jesus Christ and what he did, and the sacrifice which he gave, and accept that offer of love, right? You accept the offer of love which he's given you. He reaches down to us, wants us to grab hold and be brought back up. It's the power of God pulling you up. You see the cross. You see the love which he gave. He wants you to accept that. Accept that gift. Say, God, I know I'm perishing. I know I'm perishing. I don't want to perish. I don't want to go back and continue to live that way. I want to trust in your mercy and grace and your love, right? The love of God for you. I want you to trust in that. And then when you have that love, and you know that God has forgiven you for all that you have done, okay? And he cares about you and loved you so much to send his son to die on the cross, right? And he wants you to go out and share that love with others. He wants you to pick up your cross and follow him. There is the choice which God gives you, being saved or perishing. Which do you want? Right? Which do you want? There's your good news for tonight. Let's